Okay guys, I had to reset my iPad and everything, so I'm starting literally brand new. And anyways, graphing polynomials practice. Okay, so what we have here, guys, is we have a quadratic, and it's a negative quadratic. What you should already know, hopefully, is that an x squared always looks like this. It's a parabola, right? And a positive x squared always opens up, both on the left and right sides. Okay? And ends up having a minimum value at the vertex. Now this is a negative x squared, so we know when we do its graph, a negative x squared will always look like this instead. Okay? It's going to be opening down on the left and right sides as you go to negative and positive infinity. And this one's going to have a maximum value at the vertex versus this one had a minimum value. Okay? So, that being said, if they want a graph, they want basically an accurate rough sketch of one, we hopefully already know what it sort of looks like. But the one thing we're going to do, guys, is we're going to take this expression here, and first of all, I'm going to factor it. So first thing I'm going to do is take out a negative. And the reason why I want x squared to be a positive, see, I took out this negative right here from the x squared, is now it's easier to factor. And this right here, guys, you're going to factor. And what's going to be kind of weird about all the problems you're going to be doing on this worksheet is all of them are going to be factorable, most likely, one way or another. But anyways, let's see here. 4 times 6 is 24. 6 minus 4 is 2. So notice that this expression becomes this. Negative, parentheses, x minus 4 times x plus 6. Now, why do we want it factored? Is because now we know our intercepts. So right there, I know 4 makes it 0. Right there, I know negative 6 makes it 0. So here's what we're going to do. We're now going to plot our zeros. We have a 0 at 4. We have a 0 at negative 6. Now what? Well, now that we know where our intercepts are, the other thing you're going to learn is this is really a 1 power here and a 1 power here. They sometimes call it multiplicity or whatever. But whenever the powers are odds, guys, your graph is basically always going to go through the intersection point, one way or another. Okay? So long story short, because of the negative, I know it's going to open down like this, open down like this. That means in between, it's going to do something like this. Now, we don't know how high it goes. We could kind of guesstimate if we wanted to by putting in values. But most likely, your teacher will accept this for full credit right now. To be honest, they didn't give you a good enough graph to get the full parabola in there. This parabola actually goes up a lot further like this, guys. It's a pretty steep parabola, okay? So if I was to summarize, you would have known it was an x squared, so the left and right sides go down. Why they go down? Because of the negative. If it was positive, we know it would be going up instead. Okay. Now this one right here is an x4. It's still even though. We're going to save that for last. Oh, that's an x cubed. So that one's a little different monster. All right, let's do the x4 now. The thing about any even power, guys, just like the x squared went up on the left and right, so will a positive x4. Okay? Now, remember how I mentioned about everything's going to be factored or factorable? Well, guess what, guys? What makes this one tough is this. I know I can do an x on it with a 9 and a negative 10. Stay with me now. 1 times 9 is 9. If I make them both negative, I get negative 10, right? Here's the difference. Instead of x minus 1, x minus 9, because of the x4, it's just x squared minus 1 and x squared minus 9. If you multiply this, in other words, guys, you will get that. So now that I have it factored, we're going to solve where this equals 0. So x squared minus 1 equals 0, only if x squared equals 1. I added 1 to both sides. And when I take the square root, don't forget with square roots, you get positive 1, and you also get negative 1 in this case. Okay, let's do the same thing with x squared minus 9 here. If x squared minus 9 equals 0, I know x squared equals 9. Square rooting both sides. X is 3 and also negative 3. Square roots give me a positive as well as a negative result. So this time I have 4 roots, as we say. So let's graph them. I have one at 1 and at negative 1. I have one at 3 and negative 3. Now, remember how I told you that x4, being that it's even like an x2, we know, watch carefully, it's going to go up on the left and it's going to go up on the right. Now, what's it going to do in between? Well, we could guess, but you know, here's a good strategy your teacher will tell you. Why don't we plug in negative 2 and see what it does? And then, you know what? We're going to plug in 0 to see what it does. So I'm just picking a point in between each of my zeros here. And we're going to plug in positive 2. So you're going to get an idea. So anyways, let's do negative 2. So as I was saying, we're going to start by plugging in negative 2. Why negative 2? It's because it's between negative 3 and negative 1, our zeros. So we're going to do negative 2 to the 4 minus 10. We're literally plugging it into the function, the equation. Now, negative 2 to the 4 is positive 16. Negative 2 squared is a positive 4 times negative 10 is a negative 40 plus 9. So if you do your math here correctly, guys, you're going to get a big negative number, right? Let's plug in 0. Stay with me now. We're plugging in 0 for x. Now, of course, 0 to the 4 is 0. 10 times 0 squared, even with a minus, is still a 0. And the only thing left we have is, so this one ends up being a positive 5. Now, I'm just going to stop there, and let me show you why. Because I now know that at negative 2, right here in between my zeros, which is negative 3 and negative 1, right? That's where I am. I got a big negative number, right? What is that actually? Negative 24. That ends up being like negative 15, right? But the whole point is negative 2 is negative 15, way down there somewhere. So now I know my curve's going to come down, way down there, and it's going to come up and cross. At 0, did we not get positive 5? We could actually plot that point. So we know it's going to come up to 5. It has to come back down to cross at the positive 1. And trust me on this. If I would have plugged in 2 in here, I would have gotten a big negative number again. Okay? So it's going to come way down here and back up there. So you're going to get this curvy W shape. All right? And an X4 typically looks like some kind of curvy W shape, by the way. But guys, I know this is a lot to absorb, but so you're going to want to watch what I'm doing more than once. Watch this video more than once. Hopefully it does help. Now, what are we going to do with this cube here, guys? Is what we're going to learn, first of all, is an X cube, guys, always looks like this. It goes up on the right, it goes down on the left. That would be a positive x cube. A negative x cube is going to do the exact opposite. It's going to go up on the right and then down on the left, like so. So positive x cube, right side up, left side down. Negative x cube, left side up, right side down. And you're literally going to want to memorize that kind of shape. But in our case, we have a positive 8x cubed. So this is the type of graph it's going to look like. Now, stay with me, guys, because some of you guys are a little shaky with factor by grouping. I'm going to factor this. See how I paired them up into two groups of 2? Well, I know that if I take 8x cubed minus 64x squared, I can do a GCF of 8x squared on it. And I get that. I know if I take the x minus 8, there's nothing there to factor out except for maybe a positive 1. So that's what I'm going to do. Does everyone agree 1 times x minus 8 is x minus 8? Now, if you're shaky on factor by grouping, guys, you're going to want to study and look that up. I can't fit a long lesson on that in this video, at least. So, why would I do that? Notice how both of them have a common factor of x minus 8. And if I factor it out, I'm left with 8x squared plus 1. Now, let's find our intercepts. What makes this 0 is real simple. Positive 8. So I can actually graph that right there. See my black dot there on my graph. But what's interesting is this right here. If I try to solve it for 0, 8x squared is supposed to equal negative 1, which can't really happen in the real world. We have right here, guys, 2 complex or I numbers, right? So I only have 1 real root and 2 complex roots. Now what am I going to do? Well, I have the one intercept, 8, which I already plotted. I don't have 2 other intercepts. And the reason why is because it's not going to cross. It's only going to cross at that one number, 8. Okay, now what am I going to do from here, guys? Is let's find something a little different. Let's plug in x equals 0 because that's the easy way to find the y-intercept. If I plug in 0 there, there, and there, I get negative 8. And I can graph that right there. So I only have really 2 good points. Now, here's basically our result, guys. We know it's going to go down on the left. It's going to go up on the right. And it's going to wiggle somehow in the middle. Now, this wiggle here, guys, cannot touch the x-axis. So that's why I put it down here. But that's all your teacher's going to expect from you guys. Let me do a little bit better job here. So what I had was, I knew by plugging in 0, I found the y-intercept there. Everyone found that point down there. And by factoring, I found 8 to be 80 to be an intercept, right? The one and only intercept. So I know it's going to go down on the left. It's going to come up. It's going to do a little hump or wiggle. And it's going to cross through 8 and go up. And that's all your teacher's going to want you to do right now. He or she's going to want to know what we call the end behavior. Cubes, guys, always go up on the right, down on the left. Negative odd functions will go the exact opposite. Up on the left, down on the right. Even functions always look like this, where they both go up. If it's a negative, it'll go down, as we discussed with the x squared. But what are you going to do, guys, is you're going to think about the end behavior. You're going to factor it. You're going to find the intercepts. And if you want, plug in 0 to find the y-intercept. That a lot of times will help you, like it helped me on that last one. But guys, I know this is tough to grasp. It's not easy. Basically, welcome to pre-calculus and calculus. That's basically what you're doing here. All right. Hopefully this video helps. See you around.